Good morning. We can start our first lecture of special course Convergence of Stochastic Processes. We will consider the following situation. We have a sequence of stochastic processes defined on some probability space and parameterized by some subset T, and we would like to understand when our processes converge in some sense to some limit process. In reality, it is necessary to separate the question about the convergence of processes and the convergence of its distributions. In reality, the most important for probability theory and for applications, of course, the question about the convergence of distributions of these processes. Pn converges to P. And the importance of questions of such type can be illustrated by the following example. I only propose only one example. Let us consider first of all a sequence of IID random variables, and even I suppose that for the moment that the distribution of these random variables is the uniform on the interval 0, 1. And we would like to consider the following: the empirical distribution function Fn of x. It is 1 over n, the sum of indicator, in our case 0x of ck, k from 1 to n. Parameter x belongs to 0, 1. In our case, all values of our random variables are concentrated on this interval. And now, from a strong law of large numbers, you have here the normalized sum of independent random variables of this same distribution. So by the law of large numbers, strong law of large numbers, we know that Fn of x will converge when n converge to infinity to the common expectation value, the expectation value of the indicator 0x of xc, for example 1. This is exactly f of x, where f of x is a distribution function of the random variable xc1. So we can consider the empirical distribution function as a statistical analog of the distribution function of our random sample. But now we can consider the following: Fn of x, we can consider the difference between f of x, and we know now that this difference converges to 0. This convergence takes place Kelmar-Shuley, and in reality it is not difficult to prove that we have even uniform convergence Kelmar-Shuley. So the next step is to consider the processes xn of x, where x belongs to 0, 1, of such type. This difference converges to 0, so if we normalize by something which goes to plus infinity, in this case we can expect that the processes xn maybe will be convergent to some limiting process. In our case, if we fix x x is fixed. In this case, this expression, it is exactly due to the definition of empirical distribution function. It is exactly 1 over square root of n in sum of the indicators 0x ck from 1 to n. And now we can apply the central limit theorem. The central limit theorem gives us, says us that this value, this random variable, converges weakly. It means that its distribution converges weakly to the Gaussian distribution with mean equal with some parameter which depend on x. With some parameter depending on x. But it is not difficult to understand that in this case the mean value will be equal to 0, and here you obtain some variance depending on x. So one-dimensional distribution of this process converges weakly to Gaussian distribution. So we can expect that in some sense there is a convergence of these processes to some process x of x, which is Gaussian, and in reality a little bit late in our course we proved this convergence, and we'll see that this convergence gives us many different interesting applications, very important for different aims, especially in statistics, of course. For example, in the base of this convergence, we can construct a statistical criterion, etc., etc., etc. So, it is just one example. Now, let us pass to strict definition, strict objects and strict methods, what we can use in this context. First of all, so as usual, omega fp is a basic probability space. When we consider some process x of t, in this case, when t belongs to t, in this case, usually we can consider this process as a random element of some functional space. This space, for the moment, I denote by S. So the distribution, so we can consider, so in our case we have the following: process x, we can consider as application from omega to S. Element of S are functions, some functions defined on our parametric set T. And this application, we suppose that this application is measurable. So the image of the measure P under this application, x minus 1, will be denoted by Px, so simply P, if we have only one random process. And this probability measure on the on S, it is exactly what we call the distribution of our process. So will be interested in the weak convergence of probability distributions associated to our sequence of random processes. So we have the processes, so we have elements, random elements xn with values in S, and I suppose that S is a metric space the most important, the most frequent situation when this metric space has good properties. More exactly, frequently we will suppose that S is a complete separable metric space, but for the moment I don't speak about this additional hypothesis. By D, I denote the metric on this space S, and by BS will be denoted the Borel sigma algebra of subset of S. Sigma algebra generated by open balls in the metric D. Okay, now by Pn I will denote the distribution of Xn. And the convergence of process, weak convergence of processes for us, it is a weak convergence of probability measures Pn to some probability measure P. Okay, so the first step is just the study of the notion of the weak convergence. But previously it is necessary to say some words about general properties of probability measures defined on Borel sigma algebra of metric space. I would like to say you that in the letter what I have sent you, I indicated the literature what we can use, what you can use in relation of our course. It is a book, principally a book of Billingsley, Convergence of Probability Measures, and you can find there in the first chapter some facts, maybe in more details than I present here, but nevertheless it is necessary to present now these facts. So the first point is the following. Let us suppose that SD is a metric space. The first fact what we need in the future is the following. Let P is a probability measure, on Borel sigma algebra of S. Then this measure is regular, and P is regular. What does it mean? It means that for each A from BS, P of A is the same as the supremo P of F with respect to F, which is a subset with all closed subset of A. F is closed. Normally this fact must be known for you, because it is one of the properties of the part of analysis when you speak about the measure theory and integration. Usually this fact must be proved, but if not, you can find the proof of this fact in the book of Billingsley. So I don't want to present here this fact. The proof is not difficult. Okay, now the second fact what we need in the future is related with the notion of the tightness. we say that the measure P is tight. So it would be better to just to prove that the general notion of tightness will be given a little bit later. We prove that when we have a probability measure on BS, then P is tight. When P is tight. But now I suppose that S is separable. What does it mean P is tight? It means the following. For each epsilon positive, we can find the set K epsilon, which is compact, and such that P of K epsilon is larger than 1 minus epsilon. So the sense of the notion of tightness is the following. If we consider our probability measure as a distribution of the mass on the space, in this case tightness says us that for each epsilon we can find a compact set which contain almost all mass of our distribution. Okay, the proof. This is a less known fact, but so the proof. I suppose that our space S is separable, so let xk be a countable dense subset of S. I denote by BXR open ball with the center X and radii R. So now it is more or less clear by our hypothesis that if we consider the union of BXK epsilon for epsilon positive, this union is equal to S. It is just follows immediately from our choice of the sequence xk, which is dense. So what does it mean? It means that that if we take epsilon k sequence of positive numbers converging to 0, for each k we can choose then there exists x kg subsequence g equal to 1, etc. n, for example, such that the value of the measure P on the union of bxkg epsilon k epsilon k for g from 1 to mk will be more than 1 minus epsilon positive is fixed, epsilon divided by 2 power n. It follows immediately from the first equation, what you have here, what you see here, and from the continuity, the probability, continuity of probability measures. Okay, after that, now for each k we have this sequence. For each k we have this sequence b x n1 epsilon 1, etc. After that we have the following line, etc. Now let us consider the union of all this ball. All this ball. Union. Maybe it would be better to introduce some notation for this union. Let us take, for example, CK, and let us consider the union of CK. And what I want to estimate, the value of probability P on this union. It is clear that this value is equal 1 minus value of P of the complementary, and the complementary of the union, it is the intersection. Sorry, I take intersection here, of course, not union, intersection. It is 1 minus the sum of the P of CK, because CK complementary, k from 1 to infinity, and due to our choice, this is more or equal than 1 minus the sum of epsilon over 2 power n from n1 to infinity. Okay, here 2 power k, of course, so here k, and it is equal 1 minus epsilon. Okay, now let us consider the set k epsilon, which is a closure of this intersection. By construction, this is a closed set. But I would like to explain that this set is compact. This set is compact because for each delta, by construction we can find inside of this set the finite delta net. So it is a compact, and evidently also by construction we have this inequality. And from our estimation, we obtain here exactly what we want to find. So really, in this case, we can construct for each epsilon this compact. So arbitrary probability measure on separable metric space is tight. Now we finish with this preliminary fact concerning general properties of probability measures in metric spaces, and we pass to the weak convergence. Weak convergence. The main definition is the following. We say that Pn converges weakly to P, to the measure P, and I use this notation for this type of convergence if Pn of A converges to P of A for each set A such that P of the boundary of A is equal to 0. You can find very easily the interesting example which shows us that, simple example, which shows us that the pointwise convergence is not very good. It's too strong convergence if we accept this type of convergence as a main type. In this case, we cannot arrive to the, we cannot deduce interesting and important application. But this type, this is a clearly weaker type with respect to pointwise convergence. This type is it is exactly what we want to develop and what we want to apply to the study of the convergence of stochastic processes. Okay, one of the main results, first result about the weak convergence, it is a so-called Portmanteau theorem. Portmanteau theorem, which gives us a large number of equivalent properties. Each properties from this collection will be equivalent to the weak convergence. We can formulate this theorem as follows. The following properties are equivalent. First one, Pn converges weakly to P. Second one, lim sup Pn of f less or equal P of f for each f closed. Next one, lim inf Pn of g is not less than P of g for each g open. After that, for each f bounded and uniformly continuous, we have the convergence integral f dPn. This integral over S converges to integral over S f dP. Here f, it is an application from S to R1, a real function. After that, next one, 5. For each f bounded and continuous, also we have this relation. So all these properties are equivalent, and in reality we can add additional properties, but I don't want for the moment speak about these additional properties. I would like just to explain that you find I don't want to present here the proof of this theorem, because, for example, in general course for magistrants the proof was presented in all details, and you find the detailed proof in the book of Billingsley. The scheme of the proof is the following. It is evident that then 2 and 3 are equivalent, just passing to complementary. After that, it is not so difficult to prove that 1 and 2 and 3 are equivalent. It is the next step. After that, also what is clear here, that from 5 you obtain 4. So after that, the scheme of the proof is the following. We can deduce from 2 and 3 5, and after that from 4 1. And this is a diagram of the proof. So I don't present here the proof of this theorem, but I would like to illustrate the applications, because proposition 1. Let us suppose that the random elements of our metric space Xn converges in probability to limiting random element X. Then Pn converges weakly to P. There are different possibilities. Just to illustrate how we can use this portmanteau theorem, I present here maybe even two different proofs of this fact, because it is a quite natural fact when we have a real convergence of random elements. In this case, intuitively must be clear that their distribution must be convergent also. Okay, so the first proof. Okay, let us take a closed set F. Just I would like to use the second property, F closed, and let us consider Pn of F. We would like arrive to the estimation for lim sup of this sequence, and how we can arrive to this estimation. First of all, let us remark that Pn is a distribution of Xn, so what you see here, it is exactly the probability that Xn belongs to F. Okay, this is the first remark. After that, I would like to use the hypothesis that Xn converges in probability to X, so I can I can represent this event, Xn belongs to F, as a union of two events. The first one, it is exactly the intersection of our initial set with the set where Xn is not very far from X, and the second part, it is is defined by complementary. So we can write here that this is a probability that Xn belongs to F, and the distance between Xn and X is less than epsilon, for example. We take epsilon positive and we fix this set, plus the probability Xn belongs to F, and the dXn X is larger or equal than epsilon. how we can estimate the first term? It is clear that if xn belongs to f and the distance between x and x is small, in this case the distance between x and f is, it means that x belongs to, is not far away from x, so x will be the point from epsilon neighborhood of f. So the first probability can be estimated by probability that x belongs to f epsilon, where f epsilon is the epsilon neighborhood of f. And what about the second term? The second term, evidently, here we cannot nothing say about the relation between x and f, so we just can estimate the second term by the probability that the distance of xn between xn and x is large. So I can write here probability that distance of between xn and x larger or equal than epsilon. Now, from this inequality, immediately, we can take a lim sup. We can write that lim sup Pn of f is less or equal. Look, please, lim sup of the sum not larger than the sum of lim sups, and the lim sups of the second sequence by hypothesis xn converges in probability to x is equal to 0. So we can write here lim sup probability x belongs to f epsilon. But it is clear that the set x belongs to f epsilon. This set is not, this is an open set. But if you consider the closure of this set, in this case, you obtain something like this: closed neighborhood. So it is clear that now you see, in this case, in reality, not necessary to write lim sup, because this term does not depend on n. So it is not larger than probability, and this probability I can write as here, P of f epsilon. By this symbol, I denote closed neighborhood, closed epsilon neighborhood of the set f. So it is a closed set. This estimation, look please, we start from Pn of f, sorry, we arrive to the estimation for lim sup, and this estimation takes place for arbitrary positive epsilon. So now we can take epsilon convergent to 0, and in this case f is closed. In this case the sequence, for example, you can take sequence if you don't like consider all values of epsilon. In this case this sequence will be decreasing, and by continuity of measure we arrive to the P of f, and this is exactly what we want to obtain. We see that we have this inequality, so we have this weak convergence. This is the first proof. There is another possibility. There is another possibility, of course. And the second proof, I would like to use, for example, the property fall. So, second proof. Second proof. So now I would like to estimate integral, the behavior of the integral f dpn. By change value theorem, it is the same as the expectation of f of xn. And the limiting integral, integral f dp, it is also expectation f of x. So we would like to prove this convergence. For this aim, let us consider the difference between these two terms, more exactly the modulus of the difference. The advantage of the passage to the expectation is that in this case we have here two integrals, but with respect to the same probability measure, basic probability measure. So we can write that it is less or equal than expectation of the modulo of the difference. I remind you that f is uniformly continuous. Uniformly continuous and bounded. Let us suppose, for example, that modulus of f is not larger than some constant m. Okay, now let us estimate this expectation. In this case, we have integration. So in this case, we also split this integration on two parts. So it is in some sense more or less equivalent what we did in the first proof. And we can write that this is a integral with respect omega now, f of xn minus f of x. Here on the set where the distance between xn and x is less than epsilon. Okay, f of x dp plus the second part dp. Okay, and now how we can estimate these two terms? The first one, our function is uniformly continuous, so it means that the modulus of the continuity of this function, denoted by omega f of h, converges to 0 when h converges to 0. So we can estimate this difference due to the choice of our path of integration by omega f of epsilon and nothing more, because we can estimate the difference in integral not larger than 1. Plus the second one, due to the hypothesis that f is bounded, I can estimate by 2m probability that distance between xn and x is larger than epsilon. And now it is clear, we take lim sup. I use the advantage of lim sup, and we obtain here just here we obtain here lim sup of this expression equal to 0, lim sup equal to 0, so it is less or equal than omega f of epsilon, and exactly as in previous case, we can finish the proof taking epsilon to 0 and using the fact that omega f of epsilon will converge to 0 if epsilon goes to 0. So you see, in this case, there are different choices, and this different choice gives approximately analogous proofs, but I would like to present this two different ways just to illustrate how it works in a real situation. Okay, now the next very important fact related, very important property of weak convergence. Property number 2. So let us suppose that Xn is the sequence of random elements of the metric space SD. And let us suppose that we have another space, also S prime D prime, also metric space, and we have an application f from S to S prime. We suppose that this application is measurable, so each distribution Pn corresponding to Xn will be transformed by application f by the probability measure Pnf minus 1, probability measure which is defined by defined on Bs prime, the Borel subset of the second metric space. A very natural question: if Pn converges to P, very natural question about the preservation of this convergence when we pass to the images. So if we have this convergence, under what conditions we have convergence of the image measures? And the proposition 2 says us the following. Proposition 2. Let us suppose that let us denote by df the set of point of discontinuity of the application f, such that x is a point of discontinuity of f. And let us suppose that P of df is equal to 0. It means that from the point of view of the measure P, our application f is almost everywhere continuous. Then from this convergence we can deduce the convergence of image measures. In particular, of course, if f is continuous, in this case the set df is empty, so we have evidently this property. So for continuous function, in particular, this fact is fulfilled. Okay. But in application, of course, it is more interesting to have more large family of application when we can use this fact. The proof. Okay. Let F is a closed subset of S prime. S prime closed. Let us consider Pn f minus 1 of f. I would like to apply the second property of Portmanteau theorem, and I would like to estimate the limit superior lim sup of this this sequence. By definition, it is exactly the same as Pn of f minus 1 of f, pre-image of the set f. When f is continuous, in this case, pre-image f minus 1 of f will be f is closed, so pre-image in this case will be closed, and we immediately arrive to the conclusion. But in our case, we have only hypothesis that our function f, our application f, is almost everywhere continuous. So it is necessary to study a little bit more attentively the pre-image f minus 1 of f. The first remark is that evidently this value of Pn of f minus 1 of f is not larger than the closure value of Pn over closure of f minus 1 of f. And what is interesting to remark, that the closure f minus 1 of f closure in reality can be estimated as following. It is subset of f minus 1 of f union df. df. And if we state this inclusion, then it is very, we immediately arrive to the proof. Really, we can write that this, first of all, using hypothesis, first step, using hypothesis, sorry, it is necessary to say from this inequality, due to hypothesis that Pn is weakly convergent, we obtain that lim sup Pn f minus 1 of f, lim sup, is less or equal than lim sup of this sequence, and due to the Portmanteau theorem, it is less or equal than P of f minus 1 of f closure. Okay. And now, if we state, if we believe that this relation, this inclusion takes place, in this case, immediately we obtain what we want. Probability of the union, the value of P on the union we can replace, we can estimate by the sum of the values, and you obtain here exactly what is necessary, f minus 1 of f plus P of dA df, and by hypothesis the second term is equal to 0, and we and the proposition is proved. Okay. So this relation I would like to propose you as one exercise It is not difficult. It is just standard verification that each point taken from chosen from first set belongs to this union. So it is a very good exercise. Okay. Now, next remark. I come back to Portmanteau theorem, and I did not say here nothing about our hypothesis concerning the metric space SD. So in the proof of this theorem, we don't use the properties of completeness and the property of separability. So this theorem takes place without additional hypothesis. So for a general metric space, it works very well. It is the first remark. The next one is the following. In principle, we can formulate the analogous notion, the notion of weak convergence, not for probability measure, but for more large class of measures. More exactly, let us consider the sequence of finite measures, mu n, and measure mu, finite measures. Finite measures, and exactly in the same way we say that mu n converges weakly to mu if for each a such that mu of dA is equal to 0, we have convergence mu n of a to mu of a. And it is not difficult to check that the Portmanteau theorem, the equivalence of 5 properties, what you see here, can be stated, and for this more large class of measures, for large. But in the following, it will be some moment. Principally, we will speak about probability measures, but nevertheless, I would like to say that we can apply this notion and this theorem for more general case. Okay, and in this connection, I would like to propose for you also one additional exercise. More exactly, so it is number 1. Now number 2, the second exercise. Just check that if we replace in the Portmanteau theorem the hypothesis that Pn is a probability measure, but hypothesis that this sequence is simply a sequence of finite measure, we have the equivalence as before. So it is a Portmanteau theorem. We can use it. And the next one is the following. Prove that, let us suppose that mu n is a finite measure. Donc, mu n of s is a total mass of the measure mu n exactly the same notation I use for the limiting measure, mu s. Prove that the following two properties are equivalent. A, mu n converges to mu weakly, and mu ns converges to mu fs. So in reality, it is not necessary to add this property to this one, because you see from the definition, in the definition it follows immediately, because you can take here S is exactly the set of the continuity measure mu, so it is not necessary to add here. And the second one is the following: mu n normalized by mu n of s. You see, after normalization, we obtain here probability measure. So mu of s. And now it is necessary to add it is necessary to add here in the second line. It is necessary to add the hypothesis that mu n f converges to mu s, which is not equal to 0, of course. Okay. Now the next discussion will be dedicated to the notion of we look more attentively on the weak convergence. So metrization of weak convergence. So let us consider the family of all probability measures defined on the same metric space S, SD. The notion of weak convergence defines a topology on this space, and in reality there exists a possibility to metrize this convergence, and the most popular, there are different metrics. The most popular, most maybe interesting metric is the so-called Levy-Prokhorov matrix. So definition: Levy-Prokhorov metric. Levy-Prokhorov metric. This metric is defined as follows: rho PQ, where P and Q are two probability measures. By definition, it is infimum epsilon positive, such that for each closed set F, we have the following inequalities: P of F is less or equal Q of F epsilon plus epsilon, and Q of F is less or equal P of F epsilon plus epsilon. Okay. So the next exercise for you: check that rho is metric. It is not difficult. Okay, so we obtain a metric, and the theorem 1, no, theorem 2 for us, The first one, it was a portmanteau theorem, theorem 2 for us, says us the following. Let us introduce the notation P for this family of probability measures defined on S. Theorem 2 says us that P rho is complete separable space and convergence, weak convergence Pn to P is equivalent to the convergence in the sense of the metric rho. Rho Pn P converges to 0 and goes to infinity. First of all, I would like to discuss this equivalence. One part of this equivalence is very easy to state. For the second one, it is more complicated. Let us consider this equivalence. First step, let us suppose that rho Pn(P) converges to 0. Let this rho is equal to epsilon n, for example. This is just notation. I would like to state that if we have this convergence, in this case, we have also convergence, weak convergence of the measures Pn. Let us consider Pn of f, where f is closed. F closed. Look, please, by definition of the Lévy-Prokhorov matrix, for each f closed, we have this inequality. And if we know that the distance between Pn and P is equal to epsilon n, in this case, for each delta larger than epsilon n, we have this inequality Q, P, of course. F epsilon, F delta plus delta. It's just by definition. Okay, we take arbitrary delta, and for arbitrary delta, I take epsilon n. I know that epsilon n converges to 0, so there exists n0 such that for each n larger than n0, epsilon n will be smaller than delta, and in this case we will have this inequality. And what does it mean? It means that lim sup Pn of f is measured by this value. For each delta. Now we can take delta converging to 0, so this term will disappear, and f delta decreasing will converge to f, so we obtain, of course, P of f. And it gives us exactly what we want. It gives us the weak convergence. So this part is trivial. If we want to state opposite conclusion. In this case, it is more complicated, and we need the following lemma. Lemma. We have to, let us suppose that we have two hypotheses. First of all, Pn converges weakly to P, the first one. Second properties, we have weak convergent. After that, then for each family f theta, where theta belongs to parametric set theta, for each family of functions which are uniformly bounded and equicontinuous, uniformly bounded, it means that we have this property, the supremum of modulus of theta with respect to all parameter theta is finite, and the second property of equicontinuity means that we have uniform convergence of with respect to theta of all modulus of continuity of our functions. So if we have weak convergent sequence of measures, then for arbitrary family of functions with these two properties A and B, the supremum of the integral f theta dPn minus integral f theta dP, this supremum goes to 0 when n tends to infinity. Okay, so it means that not only in this case we have the uniform convergence of integrals. I would like just to indicate how we can prove this lemma without all details. I think that maybe it is necessary to suppose. I think that maybe it is necessary to add that our space S is separable, of course. S D is separable and complete. If you want to arrive to these properties, it is necessary to add these properties. So it is necessary to understand, it follows from the proof of Portmanteau theorem, that when you consider one point x from S, and when you consider the open balls with the center x radius r, okay, in this case the set of R positive such that the value of probability measure P over the boundary of the set BXR is equal to 0, this set is at most countable. Is most countable. And after that, what is the idea of the proof of this fact? you take the space S, you choose a dense subset xk, and for each xk you can find bxkr for arbitrarily small r such that bxkr are the set of p continuity, and in this case you obtain you can cover the whole space S by the union of these balls, and using this sequence of balls you can choose a sequence disjoint set, which disjoint set there exists a sequence AN disjoint set such that the disjoint union of AN is equal to S. It is a partition of S such that for each n P of DAN is equal to 0, and at the same time the supremum of f theta of x minus f theta of y when x, y belong to AN, this supremum is less than epsilon for each theta. So this is a uniform partition, and after that it is more or less clear how you can how we can arrive to the estimation of this difference of integrals. It is just necessary to approximate f theta by the step function constant on the element of this partition, and due to this estimation it is easy to understand that it works very well. Okay, so it is a just indication. It is a very good problem for individual solution. So it is a number 5. Number 5. Now I use this lemma just to finish the proof. So second step, now I suppose that Pn converges to P. First of all, I would like to explain how we can approximate the indicator of a given closed set by relatively smooth functions. So f is closed. Let us consider the following function. The following function h epsilon of x is equal to 1 when x belongs to f. It is equal to 0 when the distance between x and f is larger or equal than epsilon, and equal to 1 minus 1 over epsilon distance xf when the distance xf is less than epsilon and larger or equal than 0. For example, if f is a segment on the line, in this case it is exactly the function of such type, segment AB. So here is b plus epsilon, here a minus epsilon, here we have a1. So it is a good approximation of the indicator function by function which is continuous. It is a, okay. So in reality, this function, even better than simply continuous, more exactly, it can be stated that it's also the next exercise number 6. Check that h epsilon x is 1 over epsilon Lipschitz. Lipschitz. What does it mean? It means that h epsilon of x minus h epsilon of y can be estimated by 1 over epsilon distance between x and y. Okay, so you see what is interesting here. More or less clear that this follows immediately from the very good properties of this application, x dxf. You can check that this application is one Lipschitz, so from this one you arrive to this one. Okay, now I would like to use exactly this property. What is important to remark here, that the constant here does not depend on the choice of f. It is for arbitrary closed f, we have the same constant. And of course, from this inequality, we obtain that omega h epsilon of t is less or equal 1 over epsilon t. So you have a uniform estimation with respect to all closed set. Now it is easy to finish the proof, and it is exactly the last point of our lectures of today. So just look, please, the definition of Levy-Prokhorov matrix. It is necessary to understand that estimate the distance rho between Pn and P. Okay. Let us consider Pn of f. Pn of f, it is exactly the integral of indicator f dPn. Okay? Indicator f I can replace by the function h epsilon. Maybe for us, because you see, for us now the parameter it is a closed set f. So I use in place h epsilon, I use the notation h f epsilon. So it can be estimated by integral h f epsilon dPn. dPn. Sorry, it's not necessary to do it. It is more simple. Let us consider the sequence h f epsilon. Not family, where f is closed. This family satisfies the condition A and B. Really, the sup modulus of hf epsilon is not larger than 1, is equal to 1. B, due to this estimation, we have also uniform the property B. So also B is also okay. So we can apply lemma, and by lemma we see that the integral hf epsilon dpn sup with respect to f minus integral hf epsilon dp converges to 0. Okay, so for sufficiently large n, this supremum will be less or equal, for example, delta for n larger than some n0. And now from this, what does it mean? From this inequality, it is easy to understand that we have what we want, really. For example, Pn of f, it is, as I wrote here, this is the integral indicator f dPn. It is less or equal than the integral hf epsilon dPn, okay? Because indicator f is majorized by the function hf epsilon, and this integral, due to our hypothesis, I can estimate by integral hf epsilon dp plus delta, and at the same time it is clear that this integral can be estimated by pf epsilon. So we obtain here pf epsilon plus delta. So in reality I can choose delta equal epsilon equal to delta, and I obtain what I want, the first part of what you see here, and exactly in the same way, because it is, this estimation is symmetric, we arrive to the second one, and we obtain that really at the beginning, from this point, the raw distance between Pn and P will be less than delta, and it means that we have really the weak convergence. We have really the convergence in the sense of the matrix. So for the moment I stop, our time is over.